Hello YouTube, how is y'all's day going? Today we have another free agency video. It is going to be my top 10 most underrated free agents that your team should sign. If you guys like these videos, please let me know by absolutely smashing the subscribe button and hitting the like button as well. It would be amazing if we could hit 100 subs on this video. And also let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know where you guys think these guys might end up. And of course, make sure you're following me on TikTok and Twitter. The links will be down below in the description. But that is it. Let's get right into it. Alright, so I'm going to have 5 defensive players and 5 offensive players in this video. I do apologize. Some of the graphics were a little bit weird. Usually there's a setting where I can kind of automate it to all be the same size with the team logos, but something was going on with that. So some of them might be a little bit bigger than the others. But starting off with Jonathan Jones. We have Jonathan Jones. He's a very, very solid slot corner for the New England Patriots. He's done a very great job with his role there. He is 30 years old currently. Jonathan Jones, he's an interesting corner. Like I said, he's more of a slot corner. He plays more of that kind of Mike Hilton role. But he can play outside. The Patriots kind of like guys, secondary pieces that can kind of move all around. They played him outside a lot more than they usually do with other guys this season. They played him in the slot, yes, but they also moved him outside. So he's got experience in both. They kind of like guys like that, you know, Jalen Mills, stuff like that. So anyways, Jonathan Jones, he's definitely going to be more of your slot guy, but he can play outside. He's shown that he can. He's going to do better and more of a zone coverage defensive scheme. So the first two that kind of come to mind with stuff like that is the Texans. I think he would be a good fit with D'Amico Ryans and his new defense going there. And then the Detroit Lions, obviously, they ran a good bit of zone coverage last year. And they could definitely use a guy like this. Their secondary as a whole kind of needs some upgrading, but getting a slot guy like this, I think, would be really good for them. Titans are a little bit different. Titans run a good bit of man coverage, but they do mix it up. I just think that with them, they have so many young cornerback pieces, Roger McCreary, Christian Fulton, Caleb Farley. These guys are a little bit inexperienced. They play to a pretty decent level, but getting a veteran guy that can do the slot, I think would be good. Kind of learn off of him, stuff like that. So that was a little bit of a random one that I put in there, but the Titans are clearing up a lot of cap space. They released Taylor Lewan and Robert Woods. So I think that, you know, they might be trying to add to the defense, also the offense. But Jonathan Jones, something that I like about Jonathan Jones is that I don't think he'll command too much on the market. So I think he's an underrated signing. He is getting a little bit talked about, so I wouldn't say he's super underrated. But you know, he's one of the better corners in this free agency class, and a lot of people aren't talking about it. So moving on, we have Zach Allen, who I'm actually a big fan of personally. Zach Allen has played for the Arizona Cardinals on the interior D line mostly. I really like Zach Allen. So he's had a couple of seasons where he's been pretty consistent with production. I think he stayed around the 5.5 to 6 sack range. Done pretty solid against the run, stuff like that. So, you know, the Cardinals, I put the Cardinals as a landing spot here because I could definitely see them bringing him back. You know, J.J. Watt is gone. Chandler Jones left last year, and they're really, like, needing pieces on the D-line and edge rushers and stuff like that. Everything else as far as their defense goes, I mean, not really necessarily, but if they get a good edge rush / you know, interior guys, their defense is looking pretty solid because, you know, Buda Baker, they got Collins and Isaiah Simmons, and they're all doing their thing. So the rest of the defense is actually pretty solid. But my point is that Zach Allen, I think there's a really, really good chance that he returns to the Cardinals. I think they would like to have him back. But he's done a pretty damn good job. Another team that comes to mind is my Atlanta Falcons. We need some interior defensive line pieces, absolutely, put next to Grady Jarrett. I think it would be a super smart signing. You know, just helping get some interior pressure, stopping the run. I mean, he's done a really good job, and he's only 25. I think he'll be 26 by the time the season starts, but still very young and improving. And like I said, he had a pretty damn good season. So same thing with the Steelers. You know, they've lost a lot of pieces. I think Chris Wormley and Tyson Aluwalu, I think that's how you say that, are both free agents. So they might be looking to upgrade it with someone younger. That might be Zach Allen. So I threw the Steelers in there. They have a little bit of cap space to work with. So who knows? That might be a good upgrade for them on that D line. But yeah, not much else with Zach Allen. I think Zach Allen could get, depending on where he goes. I think with the Cardinals, I doubt that he'd want to stay with the Cardinals, to be honest with you. So I think he might, if he goes back to the Cardinals, it might be a little bit more than what people expected for him. But he could command a decent market. It just depends on where people are viewing him. But I view him as one of the better interior defensive linemen of this class, probably top 3 or 4 actually. Because like I said, I think he's just going to keep improving. Eric Rowe does not get brought up ever. And Eric Rowe, it's actually kind of interesting. Eric Rowe is someone who it can move around. They play him at safety. They play him at slot corner. I think even the Patriots, I think that's where he was before. I think that's why I put them back too, because they usually like to re-sign a guy after Patriot. Eric Rowe. Yeah, so he plays for Miami, obviously, but yes, he was on the Patriots. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought he started his career with the Patriots. So yeah, Eric Rowe, I don't know why that left my mind. It was making me second guess it, but Eric Rowe, yeah. Eric Rowe was on the Patriots, and he won 2 rings with them, but they moved him around a lot. They played him at slot corner and outside corner even. They played him as a CB2, I believe, at one point, and then they moved him around a little bit, played him at safety too. But he kind of made a little bit of a home here with Miami, and he's done a pretty good job. They played him a lot in the slot. He's just a guy that just a very versatile secondary piece, kind of more versatile than Jonathan Jones for sure. And he's getting pretty good interest. So he is 30 years old. So you wonder if he's going to start going on the decline, because some DBs, getting around that 31 to 32 range, they start kind of declining. Desmond Trufant is definitely one that comes to mind. He used to be an amazing corner. Now people are signing him as depth. But once they get around those ages, they start to decline a little bit. But Eric Rowe is someone that I think that since he's so versatile, if you stick him in one spot, especially like slot corner, I think he'll do a great job. So Raiders came to mind just because I think Eric Rowe will be definitely a cheap option and just kind of overall help elevate your secondary. The Raiders definitely need that. They need that guy that's got some experience. Eric Rowe will probably do a little bit better in zone coverage too, if I had to guess. Raiders do a good bit of that. Patriots, bringing him back, it just seems it makes sense. They've done it with other guys before. Kind of play a Jalen Mills role. So maybe replacing that. 49ers, kind of just, eyeballing it, but 49ers and Dolphins players kind of swap a good bit. They kind of go to each other's teams, whether it's a trade, whether it's free agency. I think the 49ers could use something like that. The 49ers actually had a pretty damn good corner play with Charvarius Ward, who actually super underrated right now. But Charvarius Ward played really good for them. Mosley is a free agent. I know that. And then, I'm forgetting one. He was a rookie last year, but he's played to a pretty good level too. But Eric Rowe is somebody that I think that they can sign as kind of that slot corner role, because Jimmy Ward is a free agent, and he said they played him almost solely slot corner this year, and he said that he was tired of it. So that makes me think that he's going to leave. I think that they might try to replace him. This is definitely a cheaper option. So that was another reason why I put the 49ers. Dawuane Smoot. This is one that I did not realize how consistent Smoot actually was until I started to look into him. But Smoot stays around in the 5.5 to 6 sacks a season. He gets pretty good pressure. Tackles for loss aren't bad at all. In fact, it's kind of funny because I made the graphics for this last night, and then today Roy Robertson Harris was re-signed for the Jags, and Roy Robertson's his stats are significantly worse than Smoot's. So I put the Jags here, but with the signing of Roy Robertson Harris, because it was a 3-year, $30 million deal, which is just a lot to me for somebody like that. I would have rather given that money to Smoot. But yeah, Smoot's done a good job. He's done a really good job. 5.5 to 6 sacks. That's like in the range of a above average edge rusher / D line guy. But let's just put the Jags off to the side for now. It's definitely a possibility that they re-sign him, but maybe not. Maybe not with that Roy Robertson Harris signing. But the Denver Broncos came to mind. Yeah, the Denver Broncos. I think that they might be looking for. You're not saying that Smoot will be cheap. Per se, but I think that depending on where the market's going with some of these edge rushers, maybe people don't see what I see in Smoot. And I could definitely see that as a possibility. The edge rusher class is there's got a lot of veterans. But I think the Broncos would love somebody like this. I think that they would love a guy so it can be stand up or hand in the dirt. He's pretty consistent. I don't think out of all the edge rushers, I think he could get a decent, but I don't think he will command that much. So that's another reason why I think he's underrated. Other reason he's just not talked about. Colts, kind of same thing. Yannick Ngakoue is a free agent. They just need better guys to get pressure anyways. Besides Buckner. And, they have Kwity Paye, who's been above average. And, he's a first-round pick. So I think that they were hoping a little bit more from him. But, yeah, Dawuane Smoot, I could see the Colts have cap space. I think they can pull the trigger on someone like this. He's 27 years old. I think it might be smart for them, honestly. I think Smoot would be a good fit. I think that they can move him around a good bit on that defense. So I like Smoot for the Colts and the Broncos a lot. Leighton Vander Esch. So Leighton Vander Esch had an amazing rookie season, and then he just kind of dropped off from there. I've seen a lot of people talk about, Vander Esch isn't the same. This season, in my opinion, was probably the best that we've seen since his rookie season. He actually the stats were pretty good for him. I watched a decent bit of Cowboys games this year as well. I was pretty impressed with him. He did a decent job against the run. Coverage, he was all right, lacking a little bit. I would have liked to see a little bit more of a burst of speed every once in a while, but other than that, he's pretty solid. He's 27 years old. I could see him as a 4-3 outside linebacker. I think he would dominate in a role like that. But Steelers definitely came to mind. Devin Bush is a free agent. This is a guy with a little bit more experience. And I think sticking him right alongside a guy like Myles Jack, that would be a really good pairing. And again, Leighton Vander Esch is someone that I think won't command too much. I obviously put the Cowboys back. They signed him on a 1-year deal. He had a pretty damn good year. It's kind of a prove-it deal. So, do they re-sign him? He's been there for his career. I think that they might. I think that's a possibility. Giants came to mind too. Giants need linebacker. Right now they're kind of just stuck with Jalen Smith, Tay Crowder, Micah McFadden. Those guys are good, but you can definitely get better at that position for sure. And I think Vander Esch would be a cheaper and better option and an upgrade there for them. Giants, they got to hand out some contracts this season. It seems like, are they gonna? Apparently, Daniel Jones is wanting $45 million. I think that'd be outrageous to give it to him, but they're gonna have to pay Daniel Jones or maybe franchise tag him. They're gonna have to pay Saquon Barkley or maybe franchise tag him. So they got some contracts. They need to upgrade their wide receiver room. I think Vander Esch would make sense for a little upgrade on the defense there. Moving on to our offensive players, DJ Chark. I've been a huge fan of DJ Chark, even on his off seasons, like just where he isn't playing the best. I really like what DJ Chark has to bring. He has some very underrated hands. He's a fast receiver. He's got some decent length. LSU receivers have played pretty damn good in the NFL. I like DJ Chark a lot. Last year I wanted him for my Atlanta Falcons. This year I want him for my Atlanta Falcons. And a lot of people don't talk about it, but the Falcons do need some more wide receivers. There's not, I hope that we re-sign Zacchaeus as kind of our slot receiver. Obviously, we have Drake London, but we need that wide receiver too. I think Chark can be that. Give it that speed element. London's got that contested catch, that physicality. DJ Chark's kind of that speed. I wouldn't necessarily say route runner because he's not outstanding at that, but he's pretty damn solid. I like Chark a lot as a wide receiver too. So I put them the Falcons. I put it back with the Lions too. It makes sense. They got JMO now. They got Jameson Williams. Obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown is kind of that gadget guy. Maybe they move Chark as more of the wide receiver 2 option. Amon-Ra is the wide receiver one, and then have J-Mo as that slot receiver because he can go deep like crazy with that speed. So, maybe that's what they decide to do, but Chark would be, again, I don't think he'll be too expensive for as far as wide receivers go, and he's 26. I think he's a steal. Giants obviously come to mind too, because they do need some help in the wide receiver room. I think he would be a great fit with someone like Daniel Jones, give a little bit of that speed element. And again, I don't think he'll be that much. I think it was like a 1 year 8 or 1 year 9. It's really not that much for a receiver. I think he deserves more than that. I don't know if he will get it. But yeah, I could have sworn that's what they gave him. So yeah, DJ Chark, I'm a huge fan of him. I would love to see him end up somewhere else. Mike Gesicki. There's a lot of tight ends in this class. There's a really good tight end, not draft class. Well, there is a great tight end draft class, but tight end free agency class as well. You got guys like Robert Tonyan and Evan Ingram, who had a great year with the Jags. You have Dalton Schultz. So those guys are getting talked about a lot more than a guy like Mike Gesicki, because Mike Gesicki had a down year, but Jalen Waddle stepped up, Tyreek Hill came in, they signed some other guys, Cedric Wilson, they added some more running backs to the run game, so that Mike Gesicki, he's definitely still a threat. He just wasn't that main guy that they were targeting anymore, like they were the seasons before. But Gesicki had some amazing seasons before. He's only 27, and the hindsight of tight ends usually last a decent bit. I absolutely want to see him somewhere else, and I think he would kill it. The teams that come to mind are the Panthers. Tommy Tremble isn't anything super special. I like him more as a blocker. Gesicki in that offense, I think, would be great. We're looking at obviously changed, but we're looking at a team that once valued the tight end position pretty high. With Greg Olsen. I think that would be kind of another one of those receiving threats that Panthers offense needs. That would be attractive. The offensive line is pretty solid. You got DJ Moore, Laviska Shenault. You add Gesicki to that, then it looks really appealing to some of these free agent quarterbacks, in my opinion. Defense is pretty solid too, so maybe that makes them a playoff team. And I hate saying that because they're in my division, but it's true. And I think he'd be a good fit there. Detroit Lions came to mind too. It just kind of depends on how much what they're wanting to spend on the tight end position. I think Gesicki would be a great TJ Hawkinson replacement. You might be able to, just because of how well they used Hawkinson, you might be able to argue Gesicki might be a better fit. But again, that just kind of depends in my mind on how much they showed that they didn't value Hawkinson that much when it came down to contract situation and stuff like that. They show that they like the tight end position, but to me, it's all about how much Gesicki is going to cost. But I think the Detroit Lions, depending on what he's asking for, that it would be a great player to pull the trigger on. Denver Broncos too. They try to mix it up a lot. Greg Dulcich was one of my favorite tight ends coming out of this past draft class. That he actually had a pretty decent rookie season when he came in. He caught a couple touchdowns from Russ. But he's more of that kind of go tight end. Like he just goes for a deep route. He's great up the seam. Gesicki's do it all. He can block. He can do under the routes, run drags. He gets space very easily. He's actually a pretty solid route runner. And he's got that physicality. Of course, he's a big body guy. So I think that again, how much he's asking for, Broncos should pull the trigger on that, add another receiving threat. It would definitely help out. I think Sean Payton would like someone like that. Again, another kind of system or franchise with Sean Payton, the Saints, that liked their tight ends a decent bit. So I think all of us can remember Jimmy Graham. Mason Rudolph, I was like, I gotta get a quarterback in here that's not talked about enough. Mason Rudolph was the first one that came to my mind. When looking at that list, I was like, you know what? Rudolph is actually a pretty damn solid quarterback. He's a game manager, so let's make that very clear. He's not going to make the flashy play at all. I don't see him as that. I never will. But he's a really solid game manager. He's amazing as a backup. If you're rebuilding, maybe he's great as a starter. For the Rams, with this whole Stafford situation, maybe they bring back Baker. Who knows? But he'd be a cheaper option in my opinion. Kind of in a prove-it place with the Rams. There's some rumors about Stafford maybe retiring. Maybe that happens. Rudolph would be a cheap option because if Stafford retires, in my opinion, this is when a lot of stuff will happen. I think that McVay has a chance to retire or he'll leave. Donald, same case, retire or leave, and then I think that there'll be sellers. I think that they'll be trading away a lot of guys. Rudolph would be a cheap option for the be that starter or the QB2. Raiders came to mind too, just kind of as a more of a backup, but maybe they miss on a lot of these free agents that they're talking about, or maybe they sign a guy like Rudolph and move forward with him as starter, draft someone young. Maybe they're going for a Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. Who knows? Maybe they trade up and try to get one of the big guys, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. But that was kind of where my head was with that. Commanders backup, in my opinion, I thought about it with Sam Howell. It sounds like they're going to move forward with him, which I think is smart. I was a big fan of Howell before any of the other guys like Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett came in. Howell was kind of designated as that QB1 for 2022, and he showcased that pretty well with the Commanders. He's got a great arm and stuff like that. But Rudolph, I think, is somebody that you sign just in case Howell starts, not showing the all the pretty sides of him. I think Rudolph would be a good, replacement for Howell, or maybe starter, or just backup. And I don't think Rudolph will cost too much. Jermaine Eluemunor, tackle for the Raiders, 28 years old. He actually had a really great season. I was looking at his stats. I was kind of impressed. He let up 3 sacks, which isn't obviously the best, but it is not the worst at all. There's guys that I thought were much better that I'd seen that let up 5, 6, 7 sacks, and I was like, wow. Especially when you look at the Raiders unit, because usually an offensive line plays as good as their unit. Eluemunor played way better than his unit. The Raiders offensive line was awful. It was awful. And he was probably the best on that line this year. So I give huge props to him. I didn't have the Raiders back on here. I probably should have. I could absolutely see them doing that, but I just decided I think that he might get paid a little bit more going to a different team. But 28 years old. Kansas City Chiefs came to mind. Andrew Wiley, their tackle, is a free agent. I could easily see them bringing him back. Maybe they want to replace with a little bit of a younger guy, I think. Wiley's 30, 31, somewhere around there. So not a huge difference in age, but I think Eluemunor would probably maybe be a cheaper option. Who knows? Chicago Bears, they just need upgrades all over the offensive line. I predicted them to have Jawaan Taylor, too, from the Jags. If maybe they miss out on him, maybe they miss out on a guy like Caleb McGarry, like from my Falcons, or Mike McGlinchey. Chicago, there's some good things happening there, but they're going to have to throw money. So maybe they're like, I don't value it that much. Let's see if we can, throw a little bit of money, make it a prove-it deal. If he plays well, then, we re-sign him to a bigger extension. Maybe it's a one-year deal. Who knows? Jags, kind of same thing. If they lose Jawaan Taylor, which I think that they will, or Cam Robinson, I think that this would be a cheap, solid replacement with Eluemunor. So I thought that made sense. Getting down to our last guy in this top 10, Jeff Wilson. I really like Jeff Wilson. He was a really good back for the 49ers, and then he got traded to the Dolphins. He did pretty good there. He hasn't gotten kind of that definitive RB1 role ever, and I think if he did, he would actually have really, really good numbers. As kind of a RB2/RB3 with the 49ers, then getting traded to the Dolphins was RB2, sometimes RB1 ish. He put up like 875 rushing yards. I think it's somewhere around there, 860, 875 rushing yards. He's kind of a do-it-all back. He's not necessarily a bruiser. He's not necessarily a speed guy, but he's just kind of able to do it all. He's fast, but he also can lay the boom, take a hit, slip a tackle. So I like Jeff Wilson a lot. He's 27. A couple of names that came to mind was the Ravens for sure. They love their running backs. They love the run game. I think Jeff Wilson would be a good fit there. And Jeff Wilson, again, with a lot of these guys, underrated also means that I don't think that they'll commend a lot, in my mind anyways, because they're not being talked about. They're not one of the main guys. So Jeff Wilson, I think, could actually be fairly cheap. Rams came to mind for sure. Akers, what's going on with that? Probably a trade. They need some other guys there for sure. for sure. So I think Jeff Wilson there made sense. Maybe wants to return back to, California, around there with since he was with the 49ers. That's a good destination to be. That's where a lot of free agents would probably like to end up, in a sunny place like that. So maybe he goes back to the Rams. Same thing with the Chargers. Chargers maybe wants to end back up that. But the other thing too is the Chargers, that I've been saying that they need to be getting a kind of a bona fide RB1 on top of Eckler, because Eckler is more of that receiving back. They need that guy that can take some of the carries up the middle, and I think that's Jeff Wilson. I think he'll be a cheaper option for the Chargers, since they don't seem like they value that position as much. So that made sense to me. But yeah, guys, I think that is going to be it. Like I said before, make sure you are subscribed. That would be awesome. Yeah, I don't know what I'm saying. That is going to be it for the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe, and God bless.